Okay. Very important the camera's on me just right. At the right angle. It's like taking a selfie. Gotta get it just right. Perfect. Okay. So, whenever we saw each other last, when was that? Thursday. All right. Well, we were talking about philosophical questions versus non-philosophical, about theistic approach to philosophy, a non-theistic approach. It says, it doesn't really matter, just live your life. And then I mentioned some of these definitions of philosophy that are not meant to be complete in any way, like Plato's and Aristotle's and Socrates' definitions of philosophy, or at least one definition they gave at some point. Some other definitions, I won't attribute these to anyone in particular, would be that philosophy is a critical scrutiny of our beliefs and assumptions. So beliefs are things you would maybe be aware of, and perhaps assumptions would be things you would not be aware of. Maybe you're made aware of those things, and you, in a critical way, not meaning in a negative way, but in a critically just scrutinize those beliefs and assumptions. So these, I don't know, my mom taught me this when I was 3 or 4 years old, and I just always believed it because mom said so. Let me take a look at that maybe. Yeah? Mom is very smart. I don't want to doubt her wisdom. Okay, don't want to doubt your mother's wisdom or mine. But I don't know. Let me just, does that work for me? Is that what I believe? Yeah. I would imagine there are a lot of things you believe that your parents believe, and certain moral or ethical things, or maybe even political, or I don't know. And then maybe at this point in your life, you're starting to see some breaks here and there where your opinion differs. Whether you voice that or not, it's up to you. But and at some point, you've thought this through on your own, or you've been convinced by someone else that they have the better opinion about this. Okay, maybe so. Maybe you're in lockstep with your parents. I don't know. So along with that, so kind of first of all, maybe a bringing to light of those hidden assumptions, and then, thinking them through. Is that something that I can grasp onto? One of these, it goes along with Plato's idea, not Plato, but Aristotle's definition of the art of wondering. But going along with that a little bit, and a little different tack, is that it's an effort to keep your sense of wonder about the world, almost a childlike wonder about the world, to really question things. And when you were a little kid, or I don't know if any of you have younger, like 3, 4-year-old nieces, nephews, siblings, I don't know, that it's so amazing. Like they're just like so curious about everything. They ask questions about everything they can think of. And they just absorb it all. I had a teacher in 8th grade. I still am friends with him on Facebook, and we talk once in a while. He taught history, and while I knew him when I was in school in 8th grade a long time ago, he and his wife built a house out in the country somewhere, near Tulsa, but out in the country. And they did this to their kid. I thought it was interesting. They whenever they smelled a skunk outside, they would go out on the front porch and breathe in deeply and talk about how good it smelled. Yeah, you really shouldn't run experiments on your own children. This messes with their head, So their kid then was taught that was a good smell, and guess what? It's to him it was a good smell. Yeah, he went along with it, Yeah, skunk, of all things, skunk. I don't know who had to tell him that. Hey, the rest of the world and the whole animal kingdom doesn't like that smell, So you're weird. But right. I have to buy some special perfume for his girlfriends now. It's all messed up. No, I'm just kidding. But so if you have this sense of wonder about the world, there's a book I used to use for this class called Sophie's World, and it's a more of a novel, but it covers all these things we're going to talk about. And the whole kind of core to the book, and the guy who's instructing this young girl in the book keeps telling her, you know, I forget how old she was. She was a young teenager, and you know, don't ever lose this, you know, this kind of sense you have, this kind of curiosity that you have about the world and the way people think and what their ideas are and why they think that way, and you know, don't ever lose that real genuine intellectual curiosity. And then one I've kind of mentioned before is, or on the first day, is that philosophy is a field of study where questions are posed that are not dealt with in other academic disciplines. I'll just stop right there and say that. It asks and answers, or tries to answer questions that are not dealt with by other academic disciplines. So the other day I mentioned that it's almost like this is why philosophy is required for nearly every degree plan, is because it almost fills the gaps. I think I use the analogy of like almost the mortar between the bricks. And that mortar seeps into the bricks, and sometimes if the brick is cracked or something, or there's an opening there, the mortar will, you know, before it dries, it'll move into that area, and it fills those gaps, but also fills the gaps and holds the bricks together. Yeah, that might be a simplistic analogy, but that's why mathematics, a lot of philosophers were mathematicians, and a lot of philosophers were social scientists, you know. A lot of philosophers were psychologists or something akin to psychology. Yeah, because they got it, and a lot of philosophers are theologians. Yeah, they got into it, you know, maybe through a different route, and they pursued it then, starting, let's say, in the field of sociology or psychology. They got to it that way. Just a couple of ideas. You don't have to write all those down, I just said, but the ones that I just said. One other thing that philosophy does, although I wouldn't put it down as a definition, is philosophy, you know, depending on kind of where you think yourself to, wherever you use your rational ability, your ability to reason, to hear different opinions, to kind of integrate and assimilate, and to put together information and synthesize it. Wherever that leaves you, you may have some ideas that may be out of sync with other people. In fact, they may go against the grain of what your culture or what your situation at the time may kind of dictate. You may have some different ideas. And there's a German philosopher I'm sure you've heard of. Let me erase this German homework here so you can hear about him. That's weird, isn't it? The person I'm going to talk about knew all those words. You already know his name. His name is Nietzsche. And he had better pens than I have. He probably had chalk. Nietzsche called these ideas, these beliefs that you have that go against the culture, the situation, the time that you live in. And once you express those ideas, he called those untimely, very polite word, untimely meditations. Yeah, it has to be expressed, to be written or verbal, expressed in some way. A thought, belief, idea that you express, and it goes against the grain of the culture or the situation that you find yourself in. There may be another place and time. People say everything has a place and time. There may be a better place and time for you to express that idea more favorably to the people around you, but maybe not here. Maybe, just as an example, you decide that you've been given a chance to speak in chapel, and you're going to come out of a closet about your sexuality in our St. Rita Chapel. Right. Well, that would be an untimely meditation, according to Nietzsche, right? So it goes against the situation that we're in right there, right? If you mention this in the counselor's office, or you mention this to other friends of yours from that you know are okay with this or don't care, that would be different. Maybe in chapel's not the place to do it. But Nietzsche kind of likes this kind of stuff, though, yeah? He likes the...
So what is
What does it mean?
Yeah. So like...
It's an express idea that goes against the culture or the situation in which you are. So if you were to go to Utica Square with a copy of the Communist Manifesto in your hand and get a box to stand on, and you start, and maybe you wear fatigues also, might not help too. Fatigues, I don't know. And you stood there and you start reading out and maybe preaching about the Communist Manifesto and the virtues of communism in Utica Square, you might be met with some spit and maybe by the security pretty soon, I would imagine, is going to sweep in on you. Yeah, your free speech doesn't go that far. You can't talk about communism at Utica Square. However, the same exact thing, if you took it to some country in Central America somewhere, and you got a Spanish copy of the book, that would help too. And you started reading it, you know, in some part of Managua, in Nicaragua, you might draw a crowd of interested people that might be on board with you about this idea of communism. That sounds really, divide the land up and give it equally to, that sounds pretty good. I don't have anything right now. You're the person we're looking for, yeah? I don't know. So the situation is different at Utica Square than it is in San Salvador or Managua, maybe, right? Mexico City, I don't know. But that's just what you've come to believe. That's the best way to go. You may not be received as well in some places than others, and that's what makes it an untimely meditation. Yeah, and that's a big part of philosophy, because a lot of ideas that have come out of philosophy have not been received very well, although they may be influential, although they may be right on. I don't, you know, in different people's opinion. That doesn't mean they've necessarily been well received, especially in the beginning, when people haven't really had a chance to kind of digest what that means or kind of think about applications of it. There's a philosopher we'll talk about at the very end, Jean-Paul Sartre, who had to have a security detail with him. There were so many death threats on his life. Yeah. Power of ideas, right? That's all I did was write some ideas down, yeah? And then all of a sudden you got death threats. As you might see if you look at I told you already, the cover of the other book that you have, now that's a picture of Socrates getting ready to drink poison. Yeah? And not because he just wants to end it all, but because the city of Athens has sentenced him to death. Yeah? What for? For his ideas. Yeah. Powerful thing. Especially when they go against the grain and maybe rub the wrong people the wrong way. That's a powerful thing. So in time meditations, might want to watch where you are when you say these, just, you know, for your own protection. But Socrates, though, would say about these untimely meditations that you kind of come to this idea, you know, done this randomly, you're going to go against the grain in a situation that probably won't receive it well. You probably come to the point where you've convinced yourself of this, and you're convinced of it personally. And he was, that's a good thing. That means you've examined yourself. You've taken a look and decided, this is what I believe. And a very famous quote from him that I'll actually read in context, the unexamined life is not worth living. We must examine ourselves. That's a pretty strong statement. Who said that? Socrates. All right. Sorry, Socrates said that. Unexamined life is not worth living. Yeah. So that means what it says. That in his opinion, if we don't constantly kind of evaluate and reevaluate and look again and try to have a better understanding and hear other people's opinions and try to take from that what we believe to be true. That's just kind of constant thing. It's not just a one-time evaluation, but it's really an ongoing thing that goes on in our life, in our minds. Okay, now I'm going to change gears a little bit here. I asked you already some ideas for some philosophical questions, and I want to talk about those two things. So there are obviously differences between philosophical questions and non-philosophical questions, and you gave me some good examples. Or maybe I gave you good examples. I can't remember. One of the classes was not very, I'm sure it wasn't you guys, that was the other. It's the B class. Whatever happens, I'm going to blame it on the B class, okay? All right. Because you guys are all getting A's by definition, I think. Isn't that how it works? All right. Here's some, just to kind of illustrate this. So if I say to Nick, I say, Nick, you can do whatever you have to answer this question. You can leave school, you know, but we need an answer. If I say, is there any beer in your refrigerator at home? Okay, but let's say you had, I need you to go verify it somehow. What would you, tell me your process to do that? You take your car, okay. Go ahead. Be like childlike in your details. Go ahead, I want to hear. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Let's get to the house now. Where is your refrigerator in the house? Good. Okay. And what are you going to do then? Open the door. Move the mustard around. Right? Okay. Good. And then take a picture of it, maybe. Right? Maybe live stream your your little odyssey to get. All right. And you're going to bring some back, right? Nah. Okay. Maybe. Good. So that's how you would. That sounds like a pretty good plan, right? Andrea, if I ask you, are there any trout in Missouri? How would you figure that out? You can leave. You can do whatever you want to. Maybe you don't have to leave the school. I don't know. Any trout, the fish, a trout, any kind of trout, rainbow, brown trout, German trout, whatever. Sorry. Let me get Andrew. I'm sorry.
I assume that there are people in Missouri. So
there are.
I get on the internet, find a way to contact somebody in Missouri.
Okay.
I'm assuming someone near a river.
Okay.
And I would find a way to like have a video call maybe and
all right.
have them catch a fish or a trout.
I like this idea, yes.
Trout, and I have it on the video and I'd be able to confirm that there are trout in Missouri.
Okay, you can show us the video.
Yes.
Very good. All right.
Of the trout control.
It's possible, although I haven't checked it out. I use Missouri randomly here. There might be a book in the library on wildlife in Missouri, maybe. And it's possible that book is put out by the Missouri Fish, Game, and Wildlife, whatever they call that there, right? And I know Oklahoma has, like maybe every year, they put out a nice book. I don't know why they need to update it every year. I don't think we get that much influx of new animals. I don't know. Maybe we do. But and detailed pictures, not photos. Actually, they're usually actually painted, or they have sometimes it depends. They would show you on there. Maybe Missouri, I'm sure they have such a book. Yeah, and so seeing who publishes the book, and that it's a reliable source, that'd be pretty good. I think that'd be good. I like your idea. The idea I like better is driving to Missouri with your fishing equipment in the car, right? You get there and maybe wade out in the water and fly fish a little bit, right? Catch a big rainbow trout. Then we have beer and fish fry. It's going to be all good, right? Okay. Do you fry trout? Can you do that? I guess so. I think you can fry. People fry Snickers bars, so trout surely is at the state fair I saw. Deep fried Krispy Kreme donuts and things like that. They'll fry anything. Okay, and those are okay. We got that. if I asked one of you, let's see here, Brock, what's the atomic weight of gold? Or, okay, let's just stick with gold. What? Good, good. Now, would that be in the inside cover of your chemistry or a chemistry textbook? Yeah. Would it be a part of the periodic chart? Is it on there? I don't know, by the way.
I don't know.
You think so? It's on the chart somehow? Okay. Atomic weight of gold. And let's assume that the textbooks are reliable. I don't know if you've ever paid it. I don't know if this is just in the teacher's edition. This is I'm going to look. See, I'm going to go out on a limb here and give me a second here to do something I've never done before. All right. And maybe if I don't find what I'm looking for, we need to reevaluate our textbooks here. Okay. Well, maybe they don't have it. Well, okay. So sometimes textbooks have a really big, maybe several pages dedicated to this. This doesn't have that many. It's a German textbook, so German stuff. But sometimes I've seen in science textbooks, they'll have like pages and pages of people's names with a bunch of letters after their name, PhD, MA, MS, blah, 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 blah. And what university they teach at. And all these people have been given a copy of this book before it was published to go through it and to, give their stamp of approval saying, yes, I've gone through this book and it's a solid textbook that can be used for teaching of biology or chemistry. And they'll kind of parade these names out here. All these people have approved it, yeah, from Harvard and Princeton and UC Berkeley and wherever the best biology school, I don't know where they are, right? And they put it all out there. Probably don't find any high school teachers in that list. That wouldn't be as impressive, but although they're the ones who are using it, maybe. But all those people, and they do that to kind of prove, hey, this is a reliable source. So if I'm assuming that maybe the chemistry textbook has done something like that. There's not very many textbooks other than kind of self-published ones where the author just kind of makes a book up and doesn't get anyone else to verify that it's real, or that it's good, or that's has a certain methodology to it, or that it has he didn't throw some Greek words in where the German words should be or something. So a chemistry textbook would be verified that way. So we would know from that. So Miss Millspaw probably knows the answer off of her head. Miss Graves probably knows the answer, yeah. And if they don't, then they seem to all have these big charts on their walls. You could figure out. Okay, so we could verify it that way. So I've got 3 assignments, and then the 4th assignment, Ty, is your question to answer, is what is truth? So we got beer, trout, gold. What is truth? Yes. Now
Definition?
Yeah, but how would you go about finding out what truth is? Is truth as a virtue, not as the truth about a certain thing, or that's an example, but actually what is
asked
truth?
Whoever created the truth and
Okay, all right. So the person who created it probably is not with us anymore, but you might, no, I'm just guessing, but you could maybe people who've studied, like the priests here at the school, they've gone to school, okay? So they have degrees and higher degrees and kind of, so we kind of rely on that, right? Good. What else? Any other route you can go? Who deals with truth a lot? Who deals with discerning truth from untruth? Maybe that's a better.
Oh, a judge?
Maybe a judge would have some idea about this, right? Don't ask an attorney, unless the judge is an attorney. Sorry, folks. I know your parents. Yeah, don't ask them. Don't ask the defense attorney or something. But a judge deals with that all the time, right? He probably hears lies every day. Don't you think? I mean, when there's litigation going on, he's in a courtroom, and he has to decide, right? Give veracity to this over this. That makes more sense to me than what you said. Seems more, reasonable or something, right? Truth. Anything else? Would there be any other thing you could read, maybe, or?
You could review it.
Yes. You could Google it. What is it? Truth. Thank you. If you don't get it right, Google will even correct your spelling. Did you mean truth or truths? It'll tell you. It'll tell you because it knows. It knows the truth. Right? Now, would you just go to some blog or something, and read what they think? Which, I don't know, maybe is there some definitive source online you would go to?
Like Google Scholar.
Google Scholar, right? And then within Google Scholar are journals, right? And that are peer reviewed, I guess, or, that have some kind of, All right, very good. Any other? I can't think of too many other ways to find out if there's beer in the fridge. Trout in Missouri, atomic weighted. I'm pretty limited on all. Like, there's certain things that involves going to or talking to someone in Missouri. It involves going and looking in the fridge and seeing. It involves asking an expert or looking inside a textbook that's written by experts. But what is truth, though? That's wide open. Now, I'd probably think of some other ways we'd answer that question too. I'm going to go to Nepal, and there's this mountain I'm going to climb, and there's a guru up there, Ty, and I'm going to talk to the guru about what is truth. Yeah, maybe.
What are they gonna say?
I don't know. I'm getting ready to go later today. Yeah, so the B group up in this meeting. Maybe I could read everything that wouldn't take too long to read everything Socrates had to say. Talked quite a bit about truth. He seems to be a good source for things like that. So I'd read those ideas. Maybe there's certainly lots of philosophers have talked about and written about truth. Truth seems to be an important value. People talk about it all the time, but we can probably define what truth is in an example or in a situation. But when it comes to kind of capturing like the essence of what truth is, like what makes all true things true? What's kind of this underlying stuff of truth that makes things that are truthful? There must be some, maybe you could attack it that way. What is that thing that makes the truth, right? Like I can tell you, we'll come into this later in this class, I can tell you, what makes a certain animal a certain animal, yeah? Like genetically and the number of chromosomes. I could give you some really specific ideas. In fact, if you found a jawbone in the forest somewhere and you had DNA tests ran on it, they could tell you where it came from based on just that jawbone and some type of DNA. They could probably track it down. If they can't, then you've got something really on your hands, by the way. You're about to become famous. So it'll be the Brachhanagus. Or they got to McLatinize your name or something, Brachus hanagus. Some new primate or something. I don't know. All right. So you see the difference, right? Here's. Are we almost done? What time is it? Sorry? 55? Okay, let me finish this. So let me give you three things. There's three things that make a question, a philosophical question. They tend to be very broad, general questions. Philosophical questions tend to be very broad and general. What is truth? That's very broad compared to, is there beer in Nick's refrigerator? Right? That's very specific. They may, and please write the word may, they may appear or seem to have little practical use. Well, until you need to know what the truth is, maybe truth doesn't really matter to you at that point, until it's important to you. But it may appear to have little practical use. And thirdly, just rushing till we get done, and this is what I was the point making with Ty, is that there's no standard technique or procedure to go about getting an answer to a philosophical question. You may go 100 different ways. If I just asked all of you, don't talk to each other, but find out what truth is by next time I see you, you might go 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 different ways to find out what it is. Maybe. So, and that's okay. That fits. In fact, out of all three of these, very general, may appear to have little use. You got the answer, and no standard procedure. Number 3 is the one that fits all philosophical questions. The first 2, likely to. The third one is the one that fits all 3. So fits all philosophical questions. The way in which you go answering it, that's up to you. And you may all arrive at the same answer or close to it, but you maybe went 3 different ways. Okay.
Do I get to see when this people?
You can keep it. Or you can throw it away. All right. Anna, I hope you're hearing all this. I think we're going to finish it here. I'll send you the link to this.